Recording. Don't talk bad about anyone's mom.
No, no, don't say any of those things. Everything I said about you, Jeff, earlier, forget it all. Don't worry. Didn't happen.
It's all good. All good.
Yeah, it is definitely pretty nuts out there how the manufacturers I so many things like when we were originally talking, I was telling you about how the dealer was sending these terrible responses to their internet leads.
Yeah,
Their entire motivation is stop the clock.
yeah.
And so we're like, hey man, we should send a more quality response. They're like, well, if I don't stop the clock, I'm not going to get my money this month, and all that kind of stuff. So
So this is actually something I feel like you could write a whole book about called like metric-driven mistakes. I've thought about this for a long time because, okay, like automotive surveys are the perfect example. The purpose of a survey is to find out how you're doing. But if the manufacturer says, okay, we're going to base your bonus money for the dealership based on your automotive survey average compared to national, then now there's an incentive to get the highest survey number possible. And then they'll say, okay, but don't coach those surveys. And it's like, all right, but if like $200,000 for your dealership is on the line, you know what I mean? Like it happens. It's just going to happen. That you've created a bad incentive. And then you have all these dealerships all across the country. It's like, it doesn't make sense that if you go on Yelp, the average dealership has like 2.5 stars, 3 stars. But if you look at the average automotive survey from purchases, it's like 997 out of 1,000. You got to realize like there's something funny going on there. And that all comes from the fact that there's a bad incentive. I think about that with response time. There's bad incentives. With appointment confirmation, I see this one all the time. I get an email from corporate that says, national appointment confirmation is now at like, X percentage. Like we need to move the appointment confirmation up and we're going to run a bonus based on that. And you're thinking, well, now everybody's just going to mark their appointments confirmed. They're not like, it's
yeah,
just a box in the CRM. Or, there's so many of these metric driven mistakes that I think about that we don't take when there's like these little rings of power that get big and bigger and bigger and goes up to a corporate person that needs to look at metrics in order to get a big picture, like you're going to lose so much fidelity in those numbers. And so metric driven mistakes, I think it's a real thing.
we should we should talk about this a little more on the show today. I think you're right, and I wasn't even thinking about all the different ones that you are.
There's appointment confirmation. I just see people just want to confirm the appointments. And so it's in Dealer Socket or any CRM, it's just a button. You just press confirm and look, now your numbers look good. Surveys, it's like, please give me tens, please give me tens, please give me tens, so.
Yep.
I just thought they would actually use the online reviews of surveys at some point. They never have.
Use one-line reviews? What do you mean?
No,
Well,
online.
Online. I just thought it would, be a percentage.
Yeah, I think that the surveys and are one of those things. I actually have a very passionate LinkedIn article I wrote that I never published because I was like, oh, I'm going to get so much heat for writing about this. But like, there is just, the surveys are, customers even know it. Customers, when they're leaving, it's like, hey, I hope you had a good experience. They're like, don't worry, before you say anything, I know, all tens. It's like, all right, thanks. But like, you're never actually going to get like, think about that if that was in elementary school or something. It's like, all right, you guys have a great summer. Don't forget, I remember, everybody gets A's. And then you're like, you never know if your kid's any good, like it's just, all right, everybody gets their allowance, but man, think about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's today's society, right?
Yeah.
Should we? I do want to bring it to everyone's attention. What was the term you called it?
I call it metric-driven mistakes. That's my improv coming down. Metric-driven mistakes. I think that's a problem in corporate America that I've seen. I've only been in this for 7 years, but I've seen so many little things where there's a report that the VP sends down to the area, who sends down to the GMs, who then goes, hey, rattles the cages and say, hey, you know what, our metrics are down this percentage, how can we fix it? And the quick fix is always the fix that people want to do. I mean, even if you've got I have a very good general manager at my store, so he's going to look at the process, but then he'll say, we're looking at this, but I can look at all the other stores and see, like, I know that store doesn't have 100% confirmed appointments. That's just not possible. But like, they show it, and so that's what we're competing with. But as soon as you see those weird metrics where you're like, oh wow, no way, they get like every single appointment they ever set is confirmed. Their show rate is the same as everybody else's, but their confirmed percentage is perfect. That seems kind of weird, right? Like
a box.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we've got a 2-second response time to all of our email.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, every single
even outside of business hours.
Yeah, I know. At 9 p.m. we have a perfect response time, which is, I think that autoresponders outside of business hours make perfect sense. I think that if it's 9 p.m., you put in an internet lead, nobody's going to answer that internet lead. Have the autoresponder respond. I think that's perfectly fine. It's not going to be the perfect response, but it'll be better than the customer getting an email 12 hours later, because they're expecting something right away.
Now,
Andrei,
question on that.
What CRM do you use there?
We use DealerSocket.
Okay.
So question on that outside of business hours autoresponder. And this is to both of you. Do you advocate making it obvious it's an autoresponder, or trying to act like it's a human being?
I always make it look like it's a human being. It's like 2 or 3 sentences long, and basically just ask the customer how they'd like to be communicated to, depending upon where the lead comes from.
I think that's probably a lot better process than
I'll tell you,
right now.
It's still to this day sort of funny to see how many people respond with, oh, just text me, or, oh, call me at this phone number, or, I prefer email.
Yeah, I think that right now our autoresponder email is just like a blanket email that says, hey, how do you want to be contacted, when do you want to come in? But I think that anybody that knows anything about technology knows that that's an autoresponder template, but it definitely says, like, sincerely, Andrei Smith. But like, it's not obvious. It's not saying, hey, this is an autoresponder, we're closed right now, which I think actually would have some value. But I don't know. I think that the way Jeff has it set up is probably the best, depending on what lead source it comes in from, setting up an individual one that's nice and short.
Yeah.
I've been.
It works. By the way, gentlemen, we are live.
Yeah, we figured that. The questions are already rolling in. And this
has been talking like the past 20 minutes.
I have too. Because we're getting questions
right now.
Sorry, Jeff, I've been talking over you.
That's all right. I just said I'd flip it live. But Andrei, thanks for joining us. Third or fourth time?
No, this is the second. I thought, is this second or third?
I thought it was at least third.
It must be third.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Jeff lives in multiple realities.
Yeah, he just wishes he got to spend more time with me.
I feel like it is sometimes.
But there's this conversation's great on the initial autoresponder, because we've got some people who are asking some questions about it. Take us a little deeper. So, one, more about the AI side of it. Any opinions on employing AI?
What data would you get from
templates with if-then statements?
I guess it depends on what data you would get. I don't know. I guess you can get enough data, but most leads don't supply very much data.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. A lot of times a customer, even in the 21st century, when customers understand that, like, when they go on TrueCar, they are submitting a lead, like, it's pretty clear, I'm getting all your contact information when I'm taking a lead in. I still get all the time customers say, oh, I didn't know you were going to call me. I just clicking on cars. I wanted to know how much it costs. That still happens. So going all deep in the weeds on like AI and autoresponders and stuff, I think that I don't know we're necessarily there yet, because the lead quality, it just still isn't good enough. I don't think the data's good enough. A lot of times I'll have a customer, lead comes in on a Q7, you call them, they say, no, I'm on a Q5. And so if you implement all this smart technology, send them this really nice email based on a Q7. Like, as soon as you got them on the phone, within 10 seconds, you knew that like this is not even the car they wanted. They just ended up putting their information in.
Although if you could dispatch, there's plenty of programs out there. I think we were just demoing one just the other day. I know Auto Lead Star and then AdPurance with their 4-star product.
4 Eyes.
Yeah, 4 Eyes, 4-star, 4 Eyes. They actually look at where the customer's coming from, where they've been, what device they're on, if they've looked at other previous vehicles during that time. So you could get into a response that says, hey, I see that, we've also got this other vehicle that may be to your liking, and then actually take the vehicle that they were looking at and put it back into the email. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it would get pretty lengthy though, I believe. Because that's another thing, is like, how long should the email be? Should it be too long? Not long enough? You end up getting too wordy, and I think people a lot of times would just end up ignoring it.
Oh, I think, humans talk in short sentences. Like, that's the simple thing. When you send your mom a text message, it's not a novel. And so the idea that we're sending novels to customers still in the autoresponder emails is silly. I think that so many of the templates that I see that come from corporate sources are trying to check boxes, and they got a list of like 14 things they want to accomplish in this one email. And it's like, you're not going to accomplish everything in this one email. You're trying to build rapport about the dealership, build rapport with the customer, about the salesperson, talk about how much inventory you have, talk about how aggressive your pricing is, mention financing, mention leasing. Like, the customer doesn't need all that. I think that my best performing emails are still like the super catchy subject line, 2-3 sentences. And at the end of the day, we still get sales are made on the phone almost. Like, I still think that like you're going to get a little bit of information on email. Some customers have now moved to like, don't call me, just do it over email. And that's fine. Those customers are actually generally pretty easy to work with. But a lot of the time you have to get the customer on the phone and talk to them. That's why we have a BDC in the first place. They've got phones.
Yeah, we do everything we can to transition the customer to the phone or text.
Yeah.
You first need to give them something to bite on in that email or text or whatever you're responding to them with first before moving to the phone.
Yeah, I would agree. But I was
going to say, I have seen a number of dealers in my own shopping and then also working with a few who just don't even answer the customer's initial question. What's the price of this car? What's the payment on this car? Do you have this car inside? They don't answer it whatsoever. Just go, hey, when can I call you? What's a good number to reach you on?
Yeah.
Hey, train the customer not to even read your emails moving forward. So.
Yeah, I have probably my best, when people go to my website, carsalesstory.com, and they join the mailing list, like there's an automated series of articles that they get sent once a week. And it's still always my best performing one of those automated emails, the one that gets the most opens and most clicks, is let's talk about e-price. And it's just like the down and dirty part. Like, if you have a website, like if you have a website and it says get an e-price and they click get an e-price, give them an e-price. And you can't say e-price is the same as the MSRP that's on the website. Well, then why do you have the button? Like, you're just driving customers mad. Like, customers like clicking buttons and having if it says get an e-price, then they want that, And so I still think that I see a lot of the BDC and internet reps and managers that I talk to, they still will say, well, we don't quote, and it's still the same old thing. It's like, this is a old song, but they still will say, oh, well, our dealership doesn't quote price online. Well, then don't have a button that says get e-price. You're just like, you're not building any trust. The customer is going to be frustrated.
Confirm availability.
Confirm, yeah.
I don't know what the hell an e-price is anyways. I don't know. Our industry coined some weird shit out there.
It was the form that made dealer.com.
Oh, really?
E-price is.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
So you were talking about 3-4 sentence line, 3 or 4 sentence lines in your response emails. But I know one of the questions we wanted to ask was, how do you handle an out-of-state lead? How do you answer all the questions that you're supposed to answer, or, you know, if you see it's an out-of-state lead, how are you supposed to do that in 2 or 3 sentences?
Well, so I think that I probably want to jump in first here. I think that out-of-state leads, the question I get a lot from BDC reps and internet managers, but mostly BDC reps because they're interested in this part of the pay plan. They say, if it's an out-of-state lead, if I'm in California and it says New Jersey on the lead, I know I'm not going to get paid to set an appointment, and that's what I get paid to do. So what am I supposed to do in this situation? And in my mind, like, that's why we'll talk later about BDC pay plans, but I think BDC pay plans should be based around not just appointments shown, but also appointments sold. And that way you can keep track of really good ratios and stuff, but that's getting into the weeds. I think that at the end of the day, if it's an out-of-state customer, this should be, if you have a good process, the easiest deal possible, because it's just a yes or no. Most likely, most dealerships I talk to, they don't negotiate with out-of-state customers. There's a reason they clicked on your car from 4 states away, and that's because it's the best. Like, they found it, and this is what they want. So the idea to get into a big negotiation with them or big back and forth, it's usually just confirming that this car is that miracle car they've been looking for, and then explaining what your dealership's process is. Like, for instance, our dealership doesn't do any, I don't think you can actually, but I'm not sure, but I know our dealership doesn't do any out-of-state leases. So we say right away, if they're interested in new cars, like, hey, you can finance this, you need to get your own financing, and you're going to send us a check. This is the exact process of how it works. We confirm this is the car you want. I'll send you some photos. Then we'll send you the paperwork. You're going to fill it out. You know, like, it's all very step by step. And so you need to set that expectations really early in the process with an out-of-state customer. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time.
Geez, if we handle it like that, we wouldn't lease anything. But we're buck up against 3 other states.
So you lease out of state? I've never actually done an out-of-state lease.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. So it's just not something that I've ever done.
There's no way.
If you have the software that can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just not something we've ever done, but I guess I could explore it more. We actually, most of the time, our out-of-state customers, just with the Audi, with our brand, with the amount of volume of cars that's in California, it's very rare to see customers come from out of state for a new car. Almost every out of state lead that I get is a used vehicle.
That's because of where you're located.
Yeah, so I think that's probably pretty location specific.
Yeah, Jeff's like in this corner of Maryland that butts up against Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Yeah.
West Virginia.
Yeah. I was actually born in Baltimore, Maryland, so I haven't been back, but there you go.
It's a good idea not to.
Yeah, so I'd say that the BDC reps especially ask me a question a lot, and they say, like, how am I supposed to handle out of state, because I'm not going to get set up with an appointment shown. And I think that if your dealership doesn't pay on appointments sold, then you need to just kind of talk. If it's something that comes up enough that you need to worry about it, then you should just talk to the manager and say, hey, when I get an out-of-state lead, I do the work, but I'm not getting paid on anything because I only get paid for appointments shown, and they're never going to show up. And so then just figure something out. If you're as a BDC rep, you have to remember you're part of the business and you generate income for the store, and your pay is part of the money that gets made by the store. So this is a partnership between all the different parts of the business. So if it's something that comes up a lot, then just talk to your manager and say, hey, how do you want me to handle this? Because obviously I want to get paid, but at the same time, I want to make sure a customer gets taken care of. So, let's.
Is that why you recommend paying the BDC based on the sale as well?
Yeah, well, that makes it easier, because the fact of the matter is, out-of-state customers, in my experience, it's usually a pretty easy setup. Like, they want the car that you have, because again, most of the time it's a used car. It's going to be different for you, Jeff, because you're dealing with these out-of-state leases and all this stuff. But my store is getting used leads from out-of-state, sometimes East Coast, because we just have the perfect used car. And then customer wants to ship it, and it's a pretty easy sell. It's like, this is the car, here are the pictures, how do you want to set it up, getting you this vehicle as quickly as possible. And so we just pay on sold. And so if the car sells and the BDC rep did the work, then they get compensated for their work.
There's a question on out-of-state deals. Are there any procedures that maybe Jeff, this is one you could answer, but do you have any procedures to prevent fraud from out-of-state clients?
Background check. I mean, each one's individual.
Pull the
So,
credit's a good start, yeah.
yeah. You know, we've been doing it for so long, and we've, especially some of Mercedes-Benz, we get so many shippers, and we're only allowed to have so many cars shipped a year, or else we start getting cut. I don't know. We know right away. They all say some of the same word tracks. They all go after the same vehicles, black on black on black. You know, it's all the S's or the G's, GLS. It's we typically know right away. But there's some pretty elaborate scams out there.
Yeah, we
sometimes we're like, but if we've got any we're like any type of red flag, we just won't go with it.
Yeah, not worth it.
We had quite the bevy of people that tried things during my checkered flag days, because we had everything from, you know, Porsche, Land Rover, BMW, but a lot of the scams that actually took and might have caught us were more on the volume cars, more on Toyotas, things like that. So
maybe with like you know, I'm just thinking mostly around shipping, which really isn't a scam.
Yeah, that's
export.
Yeah.
I think that one thing, it was actually interesting because I was on a rock climbing trip this weekend, and I was camping, and the tent next to me was this guy who actually works for an import-export company. So I was asking about this, and he goes, "Oh yeah, we ship, you know, Lexuses and Mercedes and stuff to China." And I was like, "How exactly does that work?" Because, like, you know, you don't get caught for being an exporter. Dealerships don't generally want to do deals with exporters. And he goes like, if you know what to say, you can kind of get around it. And he goes, but there are like pretty strict restrictions for shipping the cars, at least to where he was shipping them to. I think it was mostly Vietnam, actually. And he said they have to have less than 40 miles on them. They can't have any gas in the car when it's shipped, and like certain things like that. So from there, I was kind of able to kind of think of a red flag profile. I was like, well, this customer's only interested in, you know, the type of cars that want to get exported. Plus, he wants to make sure the miles are under 40, and doesn't want you to fill up the gas. Like, those are pretty specific things. But he said he does it all the time. He just walks into a dealership, pays cash for a car, and nobody knows that that's what he's doing. But they figure it out when he brings it back and says, hey, you know, we can't get the gas out of the car. Can you like have a tech get the gasoline out of the vehicle? Which is pretty wild. And he said that dealerships have gotten mad at him before, like, you didn't tell us that you're exporting this. And he's like, well, I already bought it, so what are you gonna do? You know? And I was like, oh, pretty crazy. That's your job. Pretty wild.
Well, out-of-state stuff, take it a step further. It's worth doing. You know, there's more business for sure. And there's no way to prevent fraud in all ways, and even, you know, local scams that happen. You just have to keep an eye out for it and be careful and make sure your lawyer is ready. But one of the other things I think it's worth touching on is just being fully transparent with that person. You know, providing an out the door number.
Yeah.
You know, letting them know that they might need to bring their own temporary tags, or we're going to provide you temporary tags, and it typically takes another month. Maybe we'll give you 2 sets, or we'll send you a second set. You know, but it takes a little while longer to do the TMB work. But just being very upfront with those people is something I would recommend.
Yeah, certainly. I think that you got to remember you have much less ability to make mistakes because it's out of state, and it's really hard to fix it if it gets screwed up down the line. Whereas like if a customer lives in your neighborhood and you screw something up, like you bring them in to recontract it, you fix it, you say sorry, whatever. It's not the end of the world. But when it's an out of state car and now the car's in Michigan and something screwed up, you're just in such a, like, that's when the used car manager comes out and says, you know what, we're done with out of state deals. We're never doing another one again because this was too much of a headache. Like, that's what's going to happen. So you just got to make sure as a BDC rep, if you get an out of state lead, if it's your first one, talk to your manager and make sure that you guys are doing the thing the correct way. If it's something that your team does all the time, then just make sure it's a really clear process and everything is completely transparent. Because at the end of the day, the one thing you have to remember is they're not buying your car for any other reason than you have the thing that they want that they can't get locally. locally, which means that you can be completely transparent about the price. This is the price. This is the out the door. This is how much you're paying. Like every little piece, you just want to make sure that you said it right the first time and you never put the wrong thing in email. Like double, triple check your emails, because if it comes back to bite you 3 months later and the customer says, well, you said in this email that, this car had this feature and now the car's in Michigan and you're in California, like you are so royally screwed. So just make sure you did it right the first time more than anything with that out-of-state lead.
Yep.
Yeah. What if you get a lead on a vehicle and you no longer have that vehicle in stock? How do you handle that?
Okay, so I think that the first thing is you have my BDC reps, the team has a group Excel sheet that they have, with each model that's asked about a lot. So we have an upcoming car called the e-tron GT. It's going to be just an awesome vehicle. And we have people ask about it all the time, like, hey, when can I come in and check one out? And we try to get them on a wait list. Hey, you want to put a deposit down? We'll put you on the list, so on and so forth. You can be the first one to order it. But if you're not going to take a deposit and they're just interested and want to see it, like get an Excel sheet going. It's hard to do that really well in the CRM, I've noticed, because you don't even necessarily know the model year. Right now, if a customer says 2000, oh, I want to check out the Audi, e-tron GT. In the CRM, you can actually set it up so that it will alert you that this customer is interested once the e-tron GT comes in. But it's been my experience that exactly what you put into the CRM needs to be exactly how it gets put into the CRM once the car arrives. So if you put 2020 Audi e-tron GT and you put like a dash in between the E and the T for e-tron, and then when the car comes in, they start stocking it in as E no dash, then that customer is never going to get flagged. So it's kind of something that if you have a customer and they're really interested in a car that's coming in, have an Excel sheet on the side and of a list of them with their name, email, and phone number and the car they're interested in. And then the best thing is once that car gets here, you send them an email like, hey, you're one of the 19 people on the list that are interested in this car. We do have one to check out. Let me know when you want to come in. And that's like a very transparent, but also kind of heavy-handed way of saying like, dude, you should come right now because there's a bunch of people interested in the same thing. And if they've been interested for so long that the car wasn't even out when they were first interested, like they're going to want to show up and drop what they're doing. On the other side, if it's more like a car that's been discontinued, then you need to just know, like, for instance, we don't sell A3 e-trons anymore. It was like a $40,000 to $50,000 plug-in electric hybrid. I actually have one right now. We just don't sell it anymore. So if a customer is interested in that, go ahead.
What if it's a vehicle that's just been sold?
Just been sold? Well, then obviously try to find a replacement. If it's a car that's not hard to get, oh, they wanted this car and it's just been sold, then you find a replacement as best you can. I mean,
you just don't respond back, sorry, that vehicle's been sold, bye?
Bye. No. I mean,
Why not?
That's what I do. I just say, yeah, you should go ride a bicycle. No, I think that with a customer, especially if the car's just been sold, the best thing about that customer, I always think about this, is if a car got sold out for underneath them once, they will not let that happen again. So if you say, hey, that car just sold, but I found this car. It's at another dealership. It might already be sold, but I'm willing to go to bat for you and try to get that car for you to replace it. But I need to know now if you want to move forward. Like, they don't want this to happen again. They don't want to have it sold out. They're going to say, okay, go get it. Go get it. Let's go. It's a done deal, because they've built up demand in their head because the car's selling out from underneath them. It's just like housing in the Bay Area. Everybody goes crazy over houses because they get sold out from underneath you all the time. So people are just rabid all the time looking for something.
Yeah, that's the perfect person to get a deposit out of.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, hey, you know what? There's a car out there. Let me get a deposit. Let me work for you. I'm going to get this car for you. We're going to make you happy. And then you're relieving their stress, because they're stressed now. They didn't get what they wanted. But you're relieving their stress and you're becoming the answer to their problem. And so you're integral now to the buying process.
Mm-hmm. We got another question on sold cars. So let's say you've got an appointment set and the customer's coming in on a car that is sold. Do you let them come in or do you call them?
Although it's not the worst situation if you actually don't. I think that ethically you have to call them. I think that you're trying to run a good business. You're trying to have a good name for yourself. And some of the time it's going to work out. Some of the time it won't. But at the same time, it's not the worst thing that can happen if they're local and they show up and they live down the street and the car just sold and you didn't realize it. You can turn that situation around. You shouldn't freak out. Like, it's okay, this happens, and you explain to them like why it happened, everything. But if you know ahead of time, then I would say you should let them know. I think that it's just good to run your business in an ethical way.
What if it hasn't been sold? It just has a deposit on it, and they've got an appointment. And
then I tell them, I'll get them on the phone and say, hey, we open at 9 a.m., but show up at 8 a.m. I'm going to open the doors, come check out this car. And you're going to be the one that buys it out from under the other person. Like, I'm just creating demand, right? So I want them to all want the same thing. That's how I maintain my pricing.
It wasn't too long ago. We had 3 customers in at the same time on the same vehicle. That was fun.
3, that's a
lot. Mercedes store.
Yeah. We actually had, when the RS7 first came out in 2014, I want to say, we had 2 guys come in for the same RS7, walk in from other sides of the dealership. They walked up to the car. It's the first one in California. It's badass car, 540 horsepower, whatever. It was changing people's lives back in 2014. And they looked at it, and like, one guy's like, well, I got here first. And it's marked up. I mean, this was a marked up car. And it's like, I got here first, I'm buying it. And they literally argued for like 10 minutes. And then they've resolved like some kind of side deal. They were like, all right, man, I'm going to give you this. And like, you leave. And like, one guy, we're pretty sure, paid the other guy just to get out of there so that he could get it. I was like, people do crazy things when things are in high demand.
Damn, need more of those.
Yeah, that'd be
We've had
nice.
that with the G here lately.
Oh, the new G-Wagon?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had a customer come in and say, oh, I just bought that. G-Wagon is inspiring people. That thing has changed people's lives.
You need a 30,000 over sticker.
Yeah, I had a customer buy one, and then he said, it was the craziest thing. He said, oh, I just bought it. It was 30. He was bragging about how much he paid over sticker. I paid $40,000 or something over the sticker price of this car. Yeah, he was bragging about it. And then afterwards he said, oh, but it's been in the, I said, where's the car? Because I looked in the parking lot, there was no G-Wagon. And he said, oh, it's back at the shop. I said, why? He goes, well, because I guess when they sold it to me, some rats had eaten some of the wiring. So it's going to take a while for them to replace the wiring. And I was like, you paid over sticker and you're bragging about it on a car that had chewed up wiring? And he was like, yeah, I needed a whole new wiring harness. It's like, I can't wait to get it. And I was like, man, that car is powerful.
They only say people that pay sticker or more are your happiest customers.
Oh, 100%.
There's proof.
Yeah, this guy was pumped.
Well, how about the 60+ day old lead?
Okay, in my opinion, if it's a 60-day-old lead, there's one of a couple situations. One, the question I get all the time is how to handle the 60-day-plus old lead that hasn't bought but are still in the market. And that's the important part, still in the market.
How do you know they're still in the market?
That's what I'm saying. If you don't know they're still in the market, they're probably not still in the market. You just haven't gotten in touch with them. And that's why I'm saying don't spend too much time with them. But if you talk to them and they're like, hey, you know what, we're going through some stuff. I'm going to be back in the market in 90 days or something, but contact me then. That's the only time that you really know that they're still in the market. If they just are 60 days old and they haven't said stop emailing me, they probably just put you in a spam filter and don't even know you're emailing or calling. Like, they've just never listened. So I would say the biggest thing is making sure that they're actually still in the market. And if they're still in the market, you need to know why they're not buying now, because they put in a lead 2 months ago. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you can find out if their market is still in the market with technology. So there are tools out there that provide you a link. Yeah. And it could be many different things, but it gives you a way to send them an email or a text or however we're communicating with them. You drop that link into that piece, and if they click the link, great. You know you've got somebody alive.
That's true.
Keep playing. But if they're not clicking the link, then
you send them on long-term follow-up, and they get sent an email every week or 2 weeks or something, and then you just hope they follow up with you. I would say that two things I want to touch on. First thing is, if a customer tells you, this is best practices in my mind, if a customer tells you I'm back in the market in 90 days, call them in 60, because they're almost always giving you cushion so that they don't have to get bothered by it. But every time, I swear, every time a customer says, I'm back in the market in 3 months or 4 months, If I actually wait until when they say they're back in the market and I call them, they're like, oh, I just picked up a car last week. And you're like, So always realize when a customer tells you how long out they're going to be, like realize that they are putting cushion in to keep themselves. And if you want to do your best job and close the highest percentage, you need to trim a little bit off that time frame and contact them with just a nice email. Hey, I know you're back in the market in another 2 weeks, but I'm just letting you know I'm still here for you. And you were interested in this car before. This is the car I have right now that works for you.
Well, here's another one for you. So I come from a Navy town, and a lot of our shoppers are on deployment. So they always have a set date as to when they're coming back. And usually they're quite happy to give you that information. So you keep them using what you're saying, you know, hit them up 2, 3, even a month before their deployment's over, and make sure that they're still coming in. And I've done that and had sailors come straight to, I had one who came straight to the showroom and met his family there after a deployment. It was like, this is cool, this is a little weird, sick, you know, but we're selling a car. So
yeah, it is what it is. I think that if you can actually get in, like build rapport with the customer and they share with you why they're not buying right now, then you have an opportunity to build a stronger relationship down the line. And I've done the same thing. I had a customer that was head of like Google Brazil or something, and he was flying in to come run an office here in the Silicon Valley, Google. And he told me, well, I'm flying in on this day. And it was such an awesome opportunity for me to say, no problem. We have my assistant there with a car. You don't need to worry about transportation from the airport to your new house. I'll be there with the car that you're buying. He was buying a big Q7. Just load up all your luggage. You're going to love it. And we'll drive it back to your house, drop off your stuff, and then we'll drive you straight to the dealership. And you'll have your car paperwork done in 30 minutes because everything will be prepped before you got here. And that guy sent me a bunch of referrals since then. He's always been like, this guy went above and beyond. So if you do learn a customer's plans and there is a reason that there's a hard stop on when they want to buy, if you work with them and try to make their lives easier, then it's going to be pretty strong.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. So
one of the other questions that you had, you wanted us to ask was, what should you do if a customer submits a lead and you give them a call within 10 minutes and they just hang up on you? How are you?
You caught them at a bad time.
Send them back the middle finger emojicon.
Don't take it personally. Like it's funny because I talk to salespeople at my dealership all the time, and they're like, "Well, you know, I tried to call him, but he hung up on me, so forget that guy." Like, have you ever hung up on somebody? You probably have, because you were probably busy or in a meeting, or you thought it was like a family member calling, and you realize it's your car salesperson. You're like, "Ah, I can't talk right now." That doesn't mean they don't want to talk to you. It just means they're busy. Like, send them a text message and an email. Say sorry for interrupting whatever you're doing. Let me know when you can talk. Like that. This one, it's a question I get all the time, but I'm like, this is such an easy layup.
Go ahead and just mark it bad lead and move on.
Yeah, bad lead. You know, yeah, no, I don't think that would be the best thing.
That's what most do. That's what I see.
Yeah, just send them an angry GIF and move on.
You have bad leads.
Yeah.
Jeff's got a pretty neat thing he did. I thought it was pretty fun. He has one of those tools that you can, you know, send a link to somebody and find out whether they're alive or not. So he went behind.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That marked their customers bad or dead.
Yeah.
Sent this out.
Oh yeah, anytime which our sales people love marking leads, bad leads, but we have a specific follow-up that we send the customer, and has a link into it. It has a link, and from there it lands them on a page where the vehicle is housed. It's basically like a dynamic DDP. And then from there they can adjust their payments and all that good stuff.
That's good.
Terms. So if someone does click on that link and they're in there messing around, come on, they're probably on the market.
Yeah, there's stuff. I think that's those kind of technologies.
And then if I do get the customer in, they're not going back to that same salesperson. That's for sure.
Well, I think that those kind of technologies are something that can be a huge value add at the dealership. We do have link tracking, so we do see when somebody clicks a link. And so that gives you a pretty good tune in. But if they go in, I know that also TrueCar has a kind of interesting program where you can log into their dealer portal and you can see if they purchase a car at any TrueCar dealership, it will say that they purchased out of market, like your neighborhood customer did purchase out of market, that kind of thing.
I haven't heard much about TrueCar lately.
Really? I mean, we still working with them.
Yeah. Haven't seen a rep. Not that I need to.
Leadership.
That's right. No, Chip retired.
Yep. So new leadership's on the way.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we have a good rep that comes by and kind of talks to us, tries to get us to use this portal all the time, which is good. I think it does add value. It's just one more CRM, so you just wonder about your bandwidth and whether or not you're going to be able to track another CRM, because that really is an independent thing.
Well, I know you get passionate about BDC pay plans, and you were touching on it earlier when we got started. Maybe you want to elaborate or just get into that topic?
I think I'm just passionate about pay plans in general. I think that the way that we set up commission structures at dealerships is such a cool business model. I talk to so many people that work in tech sales, consulting sales, all these other sales jobs, and I honestly feel like these corporations are scared to have like a true commission pay plan. They always are like, here's your salary, and you can make a bonus and stuff. It's like, if you're a real producer, you're out there and you're closing deals. I get that it might be harder to hire people to work on a full commission kind of structure. But if you're out there closing deals and you're a good salesperson, you want the least amount of salary, the most amount of commission, because that's how you show that you're the best. And that's how you're competitive, and that's how you make more money. And those are the salespeople that I talk to that are really mostly commission are salespeople that are making the most money and they're able to show off that they're the most successful. So I think with BDC, every BDC rep in my mind is a salesperson. They're not selling necessarily the car at the end of the day, but they're selling the appointment, and then they're making sure that they're selling the appointment. That's a big thing. But that appointment needs to be good and qualified and specific. And so a lot of dealerships are still paying BDC reps for shown appointments but not sold, because they say, oh, we don't want them to get, we don't want them to set appointments only if they think they're going to sell. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. The logic of it is, I want to set every appointment I can, and I want those appointments to be good so that they buy a car, so I get paid on both. As far as total compensation, you just break up the numbers so it makes sense. So you can kind of pay them the amount that they should get paid and make sure that it's competitive. But I think that it's a mistake to only pay on shown appointments and to disregard paying on sold appointments, because one other question that comes up all the time is customers, BDC reps say, well, the salesperson doesn't update the appointment, so I don't know. And like there's this lack of communication between the BDC reps and the salespeople and the managers. But that kind of dissolves when everybody's on the same team trying to sell the car. So if the BDC rep wants to set an appointment that sells, the salesperson wants to sell the car, and the manager wants to sell the car, they're on a team. If the BDC rep just wants to set an appointment, and the salesperson only wants appointments that buy cars and don't want to waste their time with appointments that don't buy cars, and the manager is just kind of out of the loop, then you're going to have this breakdown and appointments aren't going to get more completed and nobody's going to like each other. But I think that if you do it the right way and you say, hey, BDC reps, you are salespeople and you have mobility. I always think this too. Like if you're a good BDC rep, you're probably going to be a decent car salesperson, if not one of the best, because your follow-up is going to be, absolutely stellar. So I always try to create a path for people. Say, hey, you're a BDC rep now, but you want to be a salesperson in the future, you totally can be. And then Monday you could be a finance manager. Monday you could be a sales manager. There's mobility in the BDC if you think of them as salespeople. So you're a salesperson, you get paid on commission. It's about setting good appointments that sell cars. And then everybody's on the same team. And so much of the drama and everything kind of dissolves away because we're all working towards a common goal. We're all getting paid on the same goal.
We did a pretty fair, it was kind of a complex pay plan in BDC at one time. It had the biggest boost immediately of any pay plan we ever did. But it was hard to manage. So we paid on a first tier. So there are a couple of tiers that people were incentivized on. The first one was the number of calls per hour.
Ooh. Okay.
So we strove to have at least 12 phone calls per hour, right? And the average BDC agent was doing 9. Now, the other pieces to this was there was another tier. So there was the successful phone call. So logging a successful call. And then the third tier was getting an appointment on that call. So if you hit your number of calls per hour, and if you didn't, you still had the ability to actually, have good conversations with customers, and then also appointments. So appointments paid the most. And then at the end of the month, to make sure nobody was gaming the system, you had to go and check the ratios. So look at the number of appointments that showed to the number of appointments that were created.
Yeah.
And you
How
kept
tracking the phone calls.
Sorry, Jeff?
How are you tracking the number of phone calls per hour?
So you have them log. So they put them in the CRM. And like I said, this was, you had to manage it and you had to track it, but you could go through and count them up.
See, I think that this is one of those pay plans.
Was probably the easiest way to do it. So you'd say the number of calls per day, they worked an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
Divided by 8.
I think that although that could be really successful with some types of people, I know that my best reps are always the reps I think that has a lot of value, because it was make sure that they realize, the BDC reps realize, like, oh, when I make more phone calls, I sell more appointments and I sell more cars and I make more money. And so it kind of feeds them on that. But at the same time, I have BDC reps who are hungry for the sold appointment. Like, that's what they're hungry for. So when they get a customer on the phone, if I'd rather them, instead of calling 12 opportunities, if they called 5, but every single one, or if they spent more time with the customers that were actually buying, I don't mind that at all. Like, hey, oh, okay. Oh, you've already worked with somebody. Okay, you've already test driven with somebody. Oh, you're interested in this green all-road. Okay, let me find out right now. Oh, you want a picture of it? Okay, let me work on this. Instead of okay, I'm just going to send this over to the salesperson, let them deal with it. The BDC rep really wants to sell that appointment and then sell the car. So they're going to say, okay, they're going to get on the text with the manager. Then they're going to call, okay, nobody's picking up. They're going to go find this green all road and take a picture and send it to them, because they're driven as salespeople to make money. And they know that this is one in the hand. And they're like, this is a deal right now. And I have BDC reps who will send me a text like, this is a deal right now. Drop what you're doing. Let's get this done. Because they just want to make the money. And I think that that's the beauty of the pay plan in the first place.
Well, they're hungry for what you pay them the most for.
Exactly. Which is what I want the most, which is sold appointments. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you always keep an eye on the ratios. That's the biggest thing. Look at how many shown up, and how many appointments, how many of those showed, how many of those sold. And I don't remember what the exact ratios I use. I can post them later, but they're at work. I have them written down. And as long as they kind of fit the ratios, then I know that there's no funny business going on.
Yeah, we had to employ different ratios per brand. So Highline would have different ratios than the more volume brands. Biggest difference, or the biggest extremes would have been Porsche and Hyundai in our case. So Hyundai had a lot less shows than Porsche, or the ratio was lower.
Yeah, I think that it gets complicated too in manufacturers. I was coaching a Kia rep, and I think it was Kia, and they would pay $50 for test drives. So if you came in, the manufacturer would give you a $50 Visa card if you came in to test drive the car, which just seems wild to me. But you got to think that changes incentives. Then you're just trying to get anybody you possibly can to come in and drive a car. Oh, okay, bad credit. Yeah, no problem. Oh, yeah, you're underwater, 15 grand. No problem. Well, come test drive and see what you think. And then, we'll see if we can
come check out this A8.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're trying to get you approved. At least drive it, see if you like it. And I think I still am a firm believer in letting employees feel like they're a part of the business. And so when they're get paid for shown appointments, I think that's good, because you're making sure that they're setting good ones that come in. And when they get paid for sold appointments as well, then they're making sure that the appointments they set have good notes. So they put the stock number in there, they communicate with the sales rep and everything, and everybody's on the same team.
Ooh. How do you get the salespeople to put in good notes?
You tell them that the BDC reps won't call their customers unless there's good notes. And then if you're still going to have bad reps. Every dealership I've ever been to has a couple of bad reps who just just don't care. They're just there for the healthcare. And, you know, that's.
You're going to pay on the character count.
Yeah, I mean, they make somebody laugh, I guess. But, you know, and that is what it is. But your good performing reps are going to want the help that the BDC provides. And if they know that they only get that help if they have good notes, then hopefully you can get them on the same page. But I do think when you have your sales meetings, have your BDC show up. I'm still a firm believer in that. So they get to see like, oh, those are the people that call my customers. Oh, wow. You know, and then now they're talking, they exchange phone numbers, and we're all on the same team. You know, I still hear, and this is the classic thing we talked about last time. It's like, oh, the girls upstairs. Yeah, they're calling people, the girls upstairs. And it's like this old school mentality of like, there's this separate group. But it's like, no, this is part of your sales team. Like, just bring them all together. Get them on. Why would a BDC rep not know about new product?
Now
They should know about new product.
That's one. Even in my own car shopping, I've been shocked at how much this has happened. Where I'll put in an inquiry online and work with the BDC or the internet manager or whatever dealership I'm talking to, and then show up, and almost 100% of the time, the sales agent says, "Oh, that's the internet thing, or the internet department, or whatever it is," and it's like, aren't they part of your company?
Sales team? Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's a leadership issue in my opinion. That's a GM or a vice president or somebody who is allowing this culture to take hold.
Yeah. I think that everybody that gets paid on commission should be on the same page. Mm-hmm. And your sales managers get paid somewhat on, you know, how many cars get sold and your gross and everything like that. Like salespeople do, your BDC reps do. Like everybody should be on the same page, that we're all in this together trying to sell cars. And yeah, that comes from classic team building stuff that any corporation has.
Yeah.
Well, Andre, before we wrap this up, I guess you've apparently spoken to some dealerships that have a BDC but no CRM.
Yeah, this does happen still, which is weird. But I do get this question once in a while because people on my—
Where are these dealers located?
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but they're out there. They're not usually in the big metros. They're definitely in the smaller town stuff. But I don't know. I guess it's cost cutting or something. They think they could save a little money on the CRM. But no, it's funny because people buy it. Because my first book that came out with the Automotive BDC Manifesto, I talk all about how to use your CRM. And people go on, they send me an email. They're like, okay, this is really great info, Andre. Read the book. I loved it, but I don't have a CRM. And I'm like, well, this is going to be pretty hard. But I mean, you can do some of it on people sold cars before CRMs. They just didn't do it very well. What did you say?
We had the pink sheets.
Yeah. You get your Rolodex too. But I think that you could do it if you were really organized and you're good with Excel and you had a list and you kept everything dated. And then you just really have to realize, like, you're not going to catch those hard to make deals. You're just going to be able to make sell the hot customers cars. If they're really hot on a car, you got to just make sure that you got a hot customer list and you're just drilling those, calling those people every day and sending them emails every day. But without a CRM, you're massively handicapped. There's no way that you're going to be able to perform at the level that dealerships with CRMs have. It's just like not having a shovel and trying to dig holes.
You used to have customer prospect books. They're like this thick, the green cover. It's basically
the one the dealerships have
CRM, but
it's kind of, yeah. I mean, I guess you could buy something like that.
You just had it there at your fingertips. And I had a little check boxes, if this, then that, all that good stuff, some word tracks. Actually used one of those before the dealership got a CRM.
Yeah, I mean, it can be done. You can go and find those old log books and buy one and stuff. But why wouldn't, like, if you could, you might just look around to find a dealership that actually pays for a CRM.
I still use my Palm Pilot.
Yeah, actually, one thing I was thinking that you could do in this situation, I think we're talking about a very niche group, so I don't know how much time it's worth spending on this. But if you are working at a dealership that doesn't have a CRM and you are a BDC rep, you're in a very weird position. But maybe ask your boss. I know that MailChimp is free for the first 1,000 people. So say, hey, boss, can I start putting people into MailChimp and having them opt in for MailChimp? And then send the put in the templates that, I put on my website and stuff and put them into MailChimp and have them send out to the customers. And then when you convert like 5 deals out of MailChimp, go, hey, look, I'm using like a completely wrong CRM for this situation and we're selling cars. Do you think maybe we should just try to pay for a CRM and actually do this right the first time? Because like even using MailChimp, I'm closing deals. So like,
there's other things like high-rise CRM and agile
Yeah,
CRM, and
there's some cheap options.
so many free out there, up to a point.
Yeah.
You used to be able to purchase, oh man, slipping my mind. What's one of the older CRMs? You could buy an individual package for it.
Like Higher Gear.
No, no, it was one of the AVB Web Control.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can buy it
before my time.
Still the best CRM there is.
Yeah, I think it was like $189 or $179 for an individual.
There you go. Yeah, no, I think that you should be able to find an option. I think that the answer of like, how should I have a BDC without a CRM is you should have a CRM. That's the answer.
Simple as that.
We've got a pretty specific comment/question from Stevie Collins. Let me throw this out here. So she's coming in a little late. What if the BDC rep can show a significant history of work and communication with the customer, but does not set an appointment? The customer shows up one day and buys a car. Are you going to pay the BDC on the sale?
I mean, that's how my rule book. I mean, I have a very clear rule book of how the BDC rule book of how things work. And if you've made two-way communication with customer and you don't set the appointment, you're obviously not going to get paid for a shown appointment, but you will get paid for the sold car because you did the follow-up. They just showed up. I think that's the way we do it right now. It's rare that situation actually happens because my BDC reps are so on top of their customers that when one sneaks through, it's always weird. Like they're almost embarrassed to bring it up. But at the end of the day, like if that's happening all the time, then there's something wrong. But I'd say if it's a one-off thing, just pay your rep and move on.
Yeah, we pay it on 2 tiers. So just like that, if there was communication, we'd still get a little commission. However, if it was an appointment that was logged in there, it was a higher.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how long did it take you to figure out what to pay somebody in your BDC at the end of the month?
We tried.
I was about to say
different things over the years. So keep in mind, we did this for 10 years, Jeff.
Wow.
This wasn't something we just did overnight and kept changing month after month. There's nothing worse than changing the pay plan every month.
You don't want to change the pay plan. No. It's very rare that your pay plan changes a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, the biggest takeaway is that it's all about process, right? It's process and communication. So when your BDC has clear processes for out-of-state customers, 60-day-old customers, if they've got the right tools to use, like what Jeff was talking about, the tools to make sure that they are still in the market, like you can tell by the clicking the links and everything. If you're using the tools that Jeff's talking about, and you also have good communication so that your sales reps, your BDC, your managers, everybody's on the same page. They know when the new product's coming out. They know about customers that are excited about an incoming product and they're going to take a deposit. And everybody's communicating, you're going to sell more cars. If it's separate teams that don't talk to each other, like you are handicapping your organization. You're not going to achieve what you could achieve if everybody just liked each other a little bit more.
Yeah, no doubt.
Easier said than done sometimes.
That's true. That's true. Well,
so I know you have a website and you've got a few books out there. You want to tell everyone how they can get their hands on that?
Oh yeah, let me plug some merch. No, so I do have a website. I've been writing for just over a year now on carsalesstory.com. So carsalesstory.com, and it's got 120,000 words so like 60 articles on there all about, I dive deep on some stuff. It's really surface level on others, a lot of process, a lot of templates. And then if you go on Car Sales Story, we're doing a site redesign right now this weekend, but you will be able to purchase the 2 books that I've written that are satisfaction guaranteed. So if you don't like it, I'll send you a refund. I don't care. It's Automotive BDC Manifesto, which is definitely the best seller because it's very niche. And then I think it's kind of overlooked, but How to Sell Cars on the Internet is the follow-up to that. I don't think that I called it the right thing. I should have maybe targeted the name a little differently, but I do think that the information in that second book is just as valuable, if not more valuable than the first book that sold really well. So those, it's carsalestory.com, Automotive BDC Manifesto, and How to Sell Cars on the Internet. They're both ebooks. I am going to be coming out with audiobook versions later this year. I just got the mic and the recorder and all that stuff. And it's pretty exciting. So lots of exciting stuff. I've got a lot of cool stuff in the work as well. So, but if you reach out to me, I'm happy to answer any questions. You can always shoot me an email or anything. There's a contact form on the website, or you can just,
they could actually, they could go ahead and, if they're on Facebook, just go ahead and start asking questions. And
yeah, I mean, I'll see everything that's on Facebook. Facebook's probably the easiest. You're already there, so.
All right, Andre, thank you so much, man. It's definitely a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Good as always. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Andre.